Hey everybody, Larry Lawton here. Do I have a video for you today? I am going to be telling you how we used to communicate in the hole. Yes, I spent 3 years out of all my time in the hole, 11 straight months in the hole, and there are ways to communicate in the hole, and I'm going to go over and I'm going to show you exactly how we did it. But before we get started, please check us out on our YouTube program right here, a membership program on Patreon, all in the links below. Please check them out. If you haven't subscribed, I ask you to subscribe. I usually don't do that. I just enjoy doing this and teaching people what to do, and it's getting pretty big, and we're having fun doing it, and that is the key, guys. Okay, I'm gonna tell you how we used to communicate in a hole and everything. Now, everybody knows what I talk about when I talk about the hole. Most people should, anyway. If you haven't, there's some great videos in our playlist about the hole. But what do you do to communicate, you know? It's, first of all, the hole is the worst place in the world because you're isolated. We're human beings. We need to be socially mixing with other people. We're a communicative human being, the animal. And it's crazy what we do to people. And, you know, a lot of places want to abolish the hole. You know, I'm really up in the air on that. People talk to me about that all the time. And I'll tell you why it's different to me. What do you do with the guy that's so outroaring? He'll kill everybody. He'll do whatever. It's got to be some spot for him. They could call it what they want. But I think using the hole for the reasons they do use it is wrong. And that happens all the time. And that should stop right now. Anytime they use the hole for the wrong reasons, I think the people who put you in the hole should be held accountable. But however they can do that, I don't know, but I think they should do it. Because the hole is not a tool. The hole shouldn't be just, you know, like they put people in the hole in restraint chairs like it's a joke. It's not a fucking joke. People die. Not only that, the people who don't die usually come out pretty fucked up mentally. There is a time and a place for that, believe it or not. Yes, you heard it here. But it's far and few between, and the system does not do that. The system uses it as a threatening, and they use it as a, you know, messing with people. They'll do it. They'll use it all for the wrong reasons. I wish they'd be in the hole for a while to see how bad it is. Now, when you get into the hole, you usually go to the administrative side first before you go to disciplinary housing. So a lot of times, you know, you ask for your razor. And of course, as I always show everybody, this is what we did. We'd get a razor and it would come from the guard, and look at that. And you know, it's an actual razor. And then we'd break these off. We'd put a piece of exact cutout paper from a magazine. We'd put it in there as that piece of silver, so when the guard looks at it, he sees the silver. I had one of these in every single cell in every prison I was, no matter what. I had them all over the place. If not for anything else, to cut, sharpen pencils. You need a razor for anything. I don't care what it is, you need a razor in prison. So we'd always have our razors. And that was the first thing you do, you know, when they do say, Lord, you want to shave? Yeah. They'd come, whether I needed a shave or not. Sometimes shave, but then I would take this razor. Sometimes they gave you 2 razors if you tell them I'm going to shave in your head. And which I did, obviously, even in prison. And what I would do then is take 2 razors or at one and shave with it and get rid of it, and then keep a real brand new razor as my razor. So now we're in the hole. Now, you got to communicate. What do you do? How do you communicate with people? Always ask me. It's a couple of ways. First of all, if you bring something into the prison hole, let's say you take heroin, or let's say you take a note from somebody on the yard, marijuana, whatever it is you take into the hole, you suitcase. And you know what that means. Suitcase means inserting something in your rectum. We'd make a tube, say that long, wrap it in cellophane, put masking tape in the end, and insert it up in your anal canal, right up your ass. And, you know, there were people who used to walk around in the yard all the time with heroin in there because they were always scared of getting caught and going thrown in a hole for something. And especially when they did a piss test. Usually it took a week or so for the piss test to come back, and they knew they were dirty. They'd already be walking around with heroin in the ass. Some people went to the hole on purpose to make money. Yes, make money. What you would do in the hole then, you had orderlies. Now the orderlies are the guys that clean the tier and all that kind of shit. You'd get into the hole and you'd get the orderly over there and he'd say, listen, man, I got some heroin. You know, I got papers, $25 papers, or I got weed, a cap. They call it a cap because you take a toothpaste top and you fill that with weed, and that's called a cap of weed. And so you'd buy that weed and, you know, smoke, and you'd be a king. So you people would go into the prison, literally go to the hole to be able to sell heroin or drugs or whatever to get out of debt, give a note, and also make some stamps. So that's what they would do. They'd be either put into it for that reason. So now, let me keep going. So what happens is, so you go to the hole, and now you got to make yourself a kite. What's a kite? A kite's a note. Okay, that's all a kite is. The kite is the note. You'd make yourself a fishing line. Now, how do you make a fishing line? You take a piece of your sheet, you take your razor, you just cut a little piece of the front of the sheet and you rip it. And rip it all the way till you have, if a sheet is 8-10 feet long, you do that twice, tie one thing, you got 20 feet of rope. And here's why that's not bad, because it's light. It's light. You need that, because you're gonna end up shooting something, a fishing line they call it, and you'd go under your door. You'd have about that much space under the door. But you take that kite that you're gonna make, and I'm gonna show you make it, and you'd wing it down the hall. The other guy would shoot his kite across your line and pull you in. When he pulls you in, now you got a line between you and him. And you could pass magazines, you could pass dope, you could pass notes, everything is done like that. And believe it or not, you don't think the guards see this shit. You know, they come on the tier and there's kites flying all over. Listen, I've gotten kites stuck and the cops, guards, just pull it out and that's it. They don't even shake it down, they don't care. Every cell has one. You also could take the elastic in underwear. Now, underwear has elastic, and you take that out and you have to twine it. And there's all cotton in the elastic band. And you'd tie it to the end of the bed, make it tight, spin it. We made a spinner with a toothbrush, toothpaste holder. You know, they give you these little toothpaste holders in prison. So that's the first thing I did when I got to the hole is I cleaned the cell. Literally on my hands and knees, wiping that cell down, because I want my cell to be clean for me. Whatever weeks I'm gonna be in there. Now, they used to rotate cells in some prison every 2 weeks, some every 3 weeks. And you'd be ready. So what you would do, be smart, and you would clean your cell really well. And when they'd say, Lord, pack up, you're moving, whatever cell you move, you just take your sheet, you put all your shit that you do have, which isn't much, in your sheet, and you literally, because you're handcuffed, you have to take that in handcuffs, and you go into the next cell, and then they just lock you in, and you start cleaning. Well, if I couldn't bring the kite with me, which usually you can, but when you first get there, you gotta make a fishing line. So now, you take that sheet, you rip that sheet up, it's got long if I could shoot a kite 20 feet down, another guy shoots his 20 feet down, a cell 40 feet, the whole tier. Matter of fact, on the tiers in a hole, I have 3 tiers usually, I could be in the first cell and I could get a package or something to the guy in the last cell. Now, it might take going through another guy's cell. I would actually shoot a kite into somebody's cell, tell him, hey, yo, 104, 104. Yeah, hey, Long, what do you want? Shoot that kite down. Now, he'd take that kite in his cell. You shot it into his cell, which I mean, you slide it along the bottom. I'm gonna show you how to do that. And it slides and you go there. Now you're saying, how do you slide it? What do you do? What do you put on that thing to get it that you can slide? Toothpaste. Now, they didn't sell the big tubes of toothpaste. They did on the yard, but you usually couldn't take them and you wouldn't use them. You use the little tubes that they give you in the hole. They'll give you a tube in the hole. What I would do with this, though, everybody, is I would take this. Obviously, look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get rid of this. Not all of it now. Look what I'm doing. I'm not gonna get rid of it all. I have to get rid of some of it so it's fat. But flat enough. It can't be too fat because you gotta slide it under your door. Now, obviously, you see how big this is. So I would do this even better like that. Now, again, the toothpaste things are smaller. So you could take this thing. Now, there was that much space, so you have this. Obviously, the next thing you do is you take your razor blade, like I said, your trusty razor blade, and you put a hole right in the middle, near the end. So I take this like I'm doing, and I would, look at that cut through. You see that? See that how easy that went? Now look at it. There's a hole here, you see it? I would take my sheet, one end of the sheet, put it here, and tie it. Now this is the caboose, as they call it, or the engine. Now, guys would come up with different ways or different things. So it was always a, like a toothbrush holder. Toothpaste in the hole is it's worth its weight in gold, because it's actually used for cement. It's used to put pictures up on the wall, believe it or not. If you wanted to put something up on the wall, you put a little piece, a little dab of toothpaste, a little dab of toothpaste, put it right up, it stays there. And we always did that if you wanted to cover your vent. You would take because they'd freeze you out. It would freeze you out in a prison cell. So what they would do is either freeze you out or heat you out. So what you did was you would start taking pieces of paper from magazines or whatever and putting them over the vent. They had to have a flat vent cover. And you would literally put the toothpaste up there, and then you'd put a piece of paper, and it would actually stop the flow of air coming into your cell. I know, but you'd always leave a little bit open or something like that. But, so now we're getting back to communicating. So now Larry takes his kite, whatever note, but he first shoots this fishing line. Sing! And I'm gonna show you how that works along the ground. The weight of this with a rope will make this thing fly. So you take it, you put it down, and you go like this. In your cell. Now you're in your cell, there's the rope hooked to it, and you go like this, and watch me go all the way down. You seen that slide? Perfect. You got your rope, you're inside your cell, your door will be right here, and it's gonna go right to the edge. And that will take my kite down the hall. You see how nice that slid? It will slide, and that's what you want. Now we take that, shoot it down 2-3 cells. Another guy, if he's on your side, he'd shoot it out. He'd see the line come out, he'd shoot his line out, pull it in, and before you know it, you got a back and forth line. If he's across, if the guy was only 1 or 2 cells across from me, I'd shoot it right into his cell. Right into his cell. And you tell him, hey, Johnny, whatever it is, whoever it is, get the kite, get the kite. So he'd get up, he'd pull that in, he'd have that note, or he'd have a magazine, or he'd have dope, or you communicate where you don't want to scream across a vent and say, hey, listen, I know who got the dope, or whatever it is. So you take that guy, and but usually it was good, you usually pass magazines. Of course, some places you'd have a scumbag guard who wouldn't even pass magazines. Wouldn't even pass a magazine to a person. That's just the way they are. But this is the way you can do that as well. And orderlies. But this is now at 10 at night, everybody's locked in, you want to communicate, everything was done easily. So now, you're sitting in there. Here's what the guards did. Here's what the prison system did. You ever see on the bottom of a door where they put, I think it's called a weather strip. It's, they put it on the bottom of the door, and it's got rubber so the thing can open and close, but it tries to take that gap out from the bottom of your door. We would literally, with that razor blade, there's always a gap right here in any inside cell door. In the inside of the cell door, we would literally lay like this and cut like this, little pieces. Get them off. I don't care if it's 3 inches today. When they put these things in, within a week we had them all out. Everybody did it. And then try to rip the rubber off the back. That's what we did to get those things off. And I'll tell you what, it worked. Because under the door, you needed just a little bit of a gap to get that toothpaste thing and shoot that down the line. And that's what we did. It was so funny in prison, because some prisons you want the gap, some you didn't. Because in certain prisons, when I got into the hole, I would put my jumpsuit on the floor and cover that hole, because otherwise rats or mice would come into my cell. And I didn't want rats and mice coming into my cell, obviously. Who does? So, going forward, here I am. The prison system actually puts these things on our door. Let me tell you how patient and how hard-working inmates are. See these razors? This little razor right here. We made a handle for it. And what I mean by a handle, you take a piece of cardboard, like again, thick cardboard at the back of a writing pad that you were allowed to have or something. You make the bottom covered, so you make a handle, and now you have this in your hand. You take this in the hole, and then we lay on our stomach, literally lay on our stomach, and cut that rubber away. Literally inch by inch. And people, oh my God, yes. When you're in prison, you have nothing but time. And you're in the hole, you have nothing but time. So when you did that, you put it like this, you actually cut it. And it'd take a long time because you'd get, your fingers would get bleeding or whatever it was. And you'd cut very little and try to get a piece where you can pull it. And we got them. We literally got them. And most of those doors were gotten and within a week of anything being put up. What are they going to sit out in the hallway and wait for someone to do it? And the cells are changed every 2 to 3 weeks. So who did it? Who cares? I mean, it's done. So now there's a gap again. They can get it as low as they can, but you can't. We can get these things, whether we had to take this, cut this off, cut the front off. But usually I take sneakers, you'd break that off, but you'd have it. Because what you want, what this is for, everybody, is for the weight of it. Because it's weighted enough that when it's on the end of the ship, it's all loose. You sling it across the floor like I showed you, and it can go forever. And I used to get good at that. And you'd swing that fishing line out there, and the guy'd pick it up, and before you know it, you're communicating. Now, it was really good because when the guards tried to stop us, there's nothing they could have did to stop. They've tried it. They'd come in, they'd take the razor blades, they'd come get everything. They'd limit the toothpaste. But certain guys would come into the hole. Somebody else would do something. What I tell people is where there is a will, there is a way. And I often tell people the biggest MacGyvers. MacGyver was a TV show, and he used to invent shit. Well, let me tell you the real MacGyvers are. Dudes have been in the prison system. Guys have been in the prison system like was for over a decade. You become a MacGyver with how to make speakers out of plastic cups, or how to put a hole in a wall and then cover it with toothpaste and then paint it, and it looks just like a patch from the old plaster walls, and you had hide stuff behind those. There was so many more razor blades. So how you maneuver, whatever you maneuver, pills, anything in prison, you become a MacGyver. Also what happened and why that's done, it keeps you busy. You go crazy. Listen, I spent so much time at home, I'm probably a little crazy. I really am. But you'd be surprised how many people, go crazy, literally outwardly crazy. And a lot of people suppress it, and it's hard. It really is really hard. And I feel for people, I really do. So, everybody, you understand how we do things in prison. Communicating is like anything else in this world is the most important thing you could tell anybody or show anybody. I try to teach one thing to people. It's not English and math and science. Don't get me wrong, all that's STEM, science, science, technology, engineering, and math, I think it is. STEM, it's all important, it's all needed. No question, no question. I'm an education guy and I believe in education. But the number one thing you could teach your kid, or if any of you young people are out there watching, is do two things. Learn to read, and I mean read, and I'm not just a word, comprehension. Understand what you're reading. Because if you can read directions, you can do so many things. Besides reading, it's communicating. Teach a person how to look for signs, how to talk with people, not down to people. Communicate with a person in a way that they're respected just as much as you want to be respected. So remember that. That's one of the most important things you can do. So, you know now how to communicate in the hole. I hope you enjoy that. I want you to pass that on. We got a lot of good stuff coming. You have a great day, everybody. Stay strong, please. Stay out of trouble and make good choices, but live your life. Have a great day, everybody. Larry out.